Hello and welcome to Radio Waves. I'm your host, Kris Poliquin, and this is a production of Red Apples Media. We're broadcasting out of WLBE, my 790 AM out of Leesburg, Florida. And if you're watching us on television, you're doing so on Lake Sumter TV, Comcast Channel 13, Bright House Spectrum 498, and CenturyLink Prism Channel 83. So today I invited Blake Merrill of Merrill Insurance to discuss with us a little bit about the lessons learned from Hurricane Irma, some of the differences in policies that people may not be expecting, and just to kind of give us an overall look at insurance today and what you should know. So Blake, thank you for coming on to the show.
Hey Chris, thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thanks for the time. Thanks for the opportunity to come on and try and educate people a little bit about some of the new things that are going on with insurance.
Yeah, because after talking to you before the show, I was pretty surprised, to be honest. And what I'd like to do is kind of start big.
Okay.
Because we were talking just in general, the structure of insurance companies, and Florida specifically, that sometimes people are saying Allstate and Allstate of Florida. What exactly does that mean, and is that important to the people here?
Yes, yeah. So it's important to know that Florida in insurance is its own animal. So the large companies that are all over the nation that you see advertising, they all have a Florida branch. Well, not a branch. They've created separate Florida companies. So after Andrew, a lot of companies were hurt and had a lot of problems and took a lot of losses in Florida. And they said, hey, we don't want Florida to take down the mothership. So they created separate entities so that if something happens in Florida, the mothership's fine and doesn't hurt them, doesn't hurt their rates, doesn't hurt their reinsurance rates. So they created separate entities. So yes, it's Allstate of Florida, State Farm of Florida, Florida Farm Bureau, and stuff like that.
Okay, now does that benefit the insurees or the customers, or does that benefit the bigger insurance companies?
Well, it benefits the companies. So what you've seen, and I don't want to name names on this part, but you've seen all the big boys, which we have also. We have the national carriers. Most of the ones you see on TV, Merrill Insurance has. Yeah. They created separate companies for Florida, and they are ran completely differently, and they have different claims handling and all that stuff. They did that for their benefit, not necessarily for the customer's benefit. But you've noticed all the big boys, they're not writing coverage in Florida for, let's say, homeowners.
Right.
They're going to either just write your auto and not write your home. Or if you were with them, as you told me before, you've been with someone for 15, 20 years.
Yeah.
They've gotten rid of a lot of their business. So whenever a couple years ago, about 10 years ago, one of the major writers in Florida that had 70% got rid of a lot of their clients.
Wow.
It was perfect for us.
Right.
Perfect for us.
And when you say us, you're talking about
the independents.
The independents.
Well, Merrill Insurance specifically, but also the other people in the industry.
Okay. So
my counterparts.
If you can explain to me, what's the advantage of going with an independent or a more local insurance company?
Yes.
Because some people may be kind of, well, they can trust the big names because they're big and they wouldn't be there if they didn't know what they were doing.
Yes.
So sometimes, people may have a little, maybe cautious.
Yeah, no, I totally understand. So there's different agencies as well.
Okay.
You have your small, we're a family-owned agency, but we have a staff of 20 plus people. We've been in the business since 1925 in Mount Dora. On our 90th year anniversary, we moved to Eustis.
Oh, wow.
But we're local. We've been here a long time. My dad started in 80, and he has clients that he's had since then.
Wow.
So we have longevity. We hire some of the best people out. We pay good to get good people, because when I go to local restaurants, I want to know that everyone's going to be good with us because we've insured them correctly. When they need coverage, there's coverage there.
Right.
Versus someone that just, puts whatever policy together. They're on the end of an 800 number, and they're never going to see you. I see my clients. My wife sees my clients. My kids see my clients. We do business with the community, and so when you do that and your name's on the company, we're not some name that you're never going to hear about. in a distant land, I'm going to see you.
So I guess that personal connection with the clients, because
Yes.
for me, I make a
Yeah.
phone call. I
Yes.
can't drive to my insurance company. Even
Yes,
if I
yeah.
did, it would be some satellite, and they'd give me a claims adjuster or something along those lines. So
Yeah. So
it'd be nice to be able to relate and see
Yes.
my insurance company.
yeah. So with having independent agencies like we are, we have the Liberty Mutuals, we have the Progressives, we have the other Nationwide. Like these are the companies we have, but with us, we can shop it. Not all independents can do that either, because they may be newer or they may not have the contracts we have. We've been in it a long time.
Right.
And so pretty much how Merrill works is if I'm getting beat by a good quality company, I'll go get them because we have the financial backing and the policyholders to do that.
Oh, okay.
And so our agency is different even from a lot of the other local agencies because we have the power to go out and get new companies if we need them.
Okay. No,
And-
that's an advantage right
Yes,
there.
yeah. So if you call me or my team versus someone else, they're not going to have the same companies that we have just because they're independent. They may have one or two. It's funny. I did a video a while back with my father. It's on our website, and I said we have over 50 companies. He said, "Well, son, you need to look and see how many companies we have." We actually had 121 companies at that time. So they're not all homeowners or all business or whichever, but
Of course.
we have a plethora of people to choose from.
Okay. So almost like a broker.
Yes, yeah, we are.
With that kind of
Yes.
concept. Okay. That's I like that. I like
Yes.
that. I'd like to shift gears a little bit and talk about what we saw locally.
Yes.
Lessons learned, if you will, after Hurricane Irma. Because I know there was a lot of people trying to get in touch with their insurance companies, weren't able to, whether
Yes.
it be just because the phones or power were down for a week or so.
Correct.
But what did you see, and what do you think might have surprised some claims holders, some
Yes.
homeowners, and going, well, I didn't know that.
Yes, yeah. I mean, you think you're with a company that's open 24 hours, they're going to be open 24 hours, and you realize, hey, I can't call them.
Mm-hmm.
There's no power. I know we all have cell phones, but those go dead after a while. Yeah, it's a funny thing. So we're talking about Irma. Irma was over Monday. Well, Irma happened Monday.
Right.
An hour after curfew, we were staffed. Our office doors were open. We didn't have power. We didn't have phones. We were there. We put it out on Facebook. Hey, if you need something, we're here. We email blasted, thanks to your company, all of our clients, to let them know, hey, these are the numbers. We're here. So we were open 1 hour after the curfew. And something that was pretty neat is, there were a lot of newer agencies, a lot of newer people in the business. And last time we had a storm was 2005.
Yeah.
So I started December 2003. So 8 months later, we had all the hurricanes 2004, 2005. So I had got my feet wet. And I was like,
Right.
hey, it's time to go to school.
Right. Right.
Then came back. But, a lot of the newer companies, they don't know what to do. They came and said, hey, Blake, how do we handle claims? And so we have generators. Our office was fully functional on Tuesday morning when we opened up. And
Wow.
we were able to handle the claims. Anyone that had major damage, like we're talking trees and roofs gone, water damage, can't live in their house. One of the Merrills or one of our agents personally went out to those houses and saw them. The homes we have in Central Florida.
Again,
the ones we have in
another
Jacksonville
benefit.
and South Florida, we weren't able to do, but all the local ones, we went out and saw personally. We had a thing we called it a war room.
Mm-hmm.
So our conference room, and we had well over 500 names on that room the first few days of claims that we had.
That many claims.
Yes,
Now,
yeah.
were these all major claims?
No, most of them
Okay.
are not major. We have a thing called a hurricane deductible, and it's an annual hurricane deductible for most companies. And so even if you have minor damage, you can go ahead and turn a claim in, and that will count towards if there were a second or third hurricane, like we had no 405.
Right. When can you change or
Great
make
question.
changes or updates to your insurance policy when we're looking at a storm coming?
Yes,
I know they're not going to let you do it 2 hours before the storm hits.
correct.
But when do they let you? So what's that window of opportunity, and does it change?
Yes, it does. all the companies can open up or shut down whenever they want. They're their own businesses. There's no standard that says, hey, you have to be open, like you said, 2 hours before a hurricane. No, there used to be a thing in insurance, we called it the box, as far as property insurance goes. So we're talking your homes, your businesses, your restaurants, churches, all kinds of stuff like that. And if you didn't have coverage, then you could, it was called the box.
Okay.
And whenever they got into a certain parameter of the state, they would say, okay, we're going to shut down. Well, now, insurance, the companies are so smart. They know. When you see a storm forming off the Horn of Africa and it's about to come our way, they can stop anytime that they want. So before we would get emails whenever the companies close, and we would get, 50 emails in one day, like, boom, we're closed. And then if you call, I can't make a change. I can't add your garage. I can't add your pool. I can't add your screen enclosure. That's it.
When would you recommend people review their policies?
They should do it now. We're not in hurricane season. All the agencies have ability to do replacement cost estimators on your home, and they should do them. Because one of the big things we come up with was, well, I can sell my house for this much.
Right.
But we pay replacement cost. So 0405, the market was super high. So you could take a house that you could build for $150,000 and sell for $300,000, or similar, different numbers, but
sure.
That's not what we're concerned about. We're concerned about putting you back whole,
right,
where you were before the claim.
Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, I'd like to talk a little bit about some things that homeowners should look for specifically in their policy.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we'll be right back. Hello and welcome back to Radio Waves. Again, I'm your host, Kris Poliquin, and this is a production of Red Apples Media. We're talking with Blake Merrill of Merrill Insurance about some important and interesting facts that I think everyone should know regarding insurance policies. So, Blake, before the break, we were talking a little bit about some of the things you saw after Irma. I'd like to kind of get into the weeds a little bit, and because I've heard a lot of different stories. Anything from trees falling to the types of buildings, what's covered, what's not. Is there any insight you can give our listeners to kind of help guide them and look for specifics while they're reviewing your policy? Because hopefully everybody will review it after this show.
Yes, yeah. So there's a lot that's changed in insurance. Originally insurance was buy what you want and then gamble on the rest.
Right.
And then over the last 50 years, it's been, hey, it's a package policy. Well, now everything's going back to, hey, do you want your screen covered? Do you want your secondary structure covered? Do you want water backup? Stuff that you would think would be in there.
Automatically?
Yes, yeah. And it's not. Everything is becoming piecemeal again.
Right.
Which trips a lot of agencies up. There's so much stuff that is changing in our industry now. Very soon, companies are going to go to, you're going to have a separate deductible for your roof. Some companies are actually paying actual cash value for your roof, meaning, hey, you need a $20,000 roof. Your roof is 20 years old. We're going to pay you $5,000 instead of replace it.
Right.
And a lot of people aren't reading their policies, or they're calling someone that doesn't know the policy. Something that has surprised us in the industry this time, we didn't have a lot of problems with trees being down.
Okay.
This time. The problem was no power. People didn't have power for a longer time than we've had before.
Yeah.
People have been out of power a couple hours, a day, 2 days, but we had clients that were a week or more.
Oh, yeah.
That's a long time. And, if a tree...
I lived it. I know it's a long time.
If something hits your house and there's damage to your home and you say, hey, I need to go live in a hotel, there's coverage for that. But if you say, hey, I need to go live in a hotel because it's 90 degrees or 100 degrees in my house, there's no coverage for it.
Wow.
It's not we can't pay for every time that power goes out.
Right.
So companies are, you buy what you want. But you need to call someone that knows what there is or what the options are, because a lot of people that we compete against are only, hey, I'm $20 less than Merrill is, but then you don't have these coverages.
Right, and there's so many different types of coverages.
Yes,
and
yeah.
and I'm going to use an additional building as an example, because
Yeah.
you and I specifically spoke about this, and I was kind of shocked that secondary structure.
Yeah.
If I'm not correct, correct me if I'm wrong. That secondary structure, if it's not made the same as the primary residence,
Correct.
it may not be covered.
Yeah, that's something that has surprised a lot of people in the industry. A lot of companies, like you are buying company paper. A lot of the companies themselves
Right.
didn't realize it was in there the way that it was in. So the issue is, one of the national companies did a good job. They put together, you always have to file your rates with the Department of Financial Services, the Department of Insurance.
Okay.
Okay, so when a company does it right, sometimes the other companies say, hey, me too. We'll do the same thing that they do and just copy that. So there's one company that did this years and years ago, and probably 20, 22 companies in the state, my estimate, have said, you know what, that's a great one, we're going to do that also. But they didn't realize until it came to adjusting time
Right.
that there's a provision in most of the policies in Florida that if your other structure is not built the same as your home, for instance, you have a block home and you have a hardy board or you have a steel building out back, you could have a $100,000 other structure and it not be the same quality or built the same as your home, and you don't have coverage for it.
And that's scary.
Yeah,
And you're talking about steel buildings, sheds, workshops.
Oh yeah, so many people have them.
Of course, they're efficient. They're relatively easy to put up, and you have a secondary, like I said, building that you can do whatever you want with. There's a lot of them
Yeah.
here.
And we're very connected in Tallahassee with we write a lot of business, right? So we have access to CEOs of these companies and the head claims people of these companies, and so we've talked to them whenever they said, oh hey, that might not be covered because it's another structure and it's not built the same. And so we've gotten into the nuts and bolts with them
Right.
to realize what they're trying to say is, hey, if you went and bought a $500 shed from a home improvement store and put up and it blows down, they're not want to pay for those. But if you have a substantial structure, regardless of how it's made, then it should be covered. But that's not what your policy says.
No.
And so we're calling these companies, and we have some lobbyists we work with and stuff, and they're working to change those right now because a lot of the companies just did the Me Too.
Right.
And they didn't realize what was in it. And then when the claims adjuster starts adjusting, there are probably 80% of the agents out that don't know that one thing right now.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's
Yeah.
amazing.
I mean, that's very new.
I never heard of it until we were speaking.
Yeah.
Now, you told me something that I think is just like way, way cool.
Yeah,
And it benefits me. I'm sure a lot of people initially go, wait a minute. But I think the big picture, it benefits all of us. Can you talk to me about the drones and what insurance
Yes.
companies are doing now?
Yeah, so it's really fascinating. It took me off guard. I was surprised when I heard it. But there are companies now, and I just looked before the show to see, I mean, there are a ton of companies now. They're flying drones over before a storm hits because they can cover a huge amount of land space. I wouldn't say they're going to fly over Lake County, but
No.
the heavier populated areas, they'll fly over before a storm and see the condition of your roof. And so if you say, hey, I have roof damage from the storm, they're like, no, you didn't have it. So you probably wonder, hey, is that good or bad for the industry? It's good for the honest people, and it's going to help keep premiums down.
Right.
But the people that are trying to say, hey, I have hail damage, when we're like, we know there's no hail damage,
Right.
but I need a roof. My neighbor got a roof, or however it goes. I mean, after Hurricane Harvey hit in Texas, so that was just a couple weeks before we had Irma.
Right.
A lot of the companies were doing their adjusting because it was flooded. So they started flying drones over. So you could see, because you couldn't just drive a vehicle to a house, but you could stand in the middle of a field somewhere and put a drone up and fly over the whole city.
Wow.
And so they did it there, and then they took it and they did it in South Florida for Irma, the one that hit us. It's pretty wild.
I think so. And again, as long as, because I can see where the premiums should come down, or at least remain Because, like you said, it's keeping honest people honest.
Yes.
I'm way okay with that.
But something to remember.
And you know that's going to become more predominant.
Yes, yeah.
So you might see them in Lake County here.
Yes, but one thing to remember too is insurance is global, right? So you have your agent, Blake, or Merrill Insurance.
Okay.
Then you have the companies, Florida company or a national company. They buy reinsurance. That's a segment for a whole another day.
Okay.
But whatever happens in the world affects our rates in Florida. So when they had the big tsunami, it affected our rate. And in fact, we had clients because of the tsunami overseas that weren't able to get parts that they needed for their manufacturing businesses because they're made overseas.
Gotcha.
So insurance is so global that we may have had 12 years with no hurricanes, but around the world you hear about the fires, you hear about the mudslides, you hear about ice storms, all kinds of stuff. It's a fascinating industry.
I was about to say it, and I don't think enough people realize that. I mean, if I would have put thought into it, I tend to think I'm a smart guy. But again, it is global.
Yeah, I mean, it's
and
not.
The manufacturing parts is a perfect example of how it can affect.
I mean, that was a local company right here in our backyard.
So now let me ask you about flood insurance. Now that we were talking about the floods,
Okay.
I've had a lot of people. Well, again, after the hurricane, communities are talking a lot. Oh, did you hear? Did you hear? And you get a lot of rumors and not so much facts, or maybe they're facts, but they're designated by one company versus another one. Did we have an issue with flooding in Lake County, and was that covered by hurricane coverage?
Yes, yeah. So that's two different questions. So, did we have a lot of flood? I didn't see a lot of flood from our clients.
Okay.
But no, flood is its own policy, its own program. It's backed by the government. It's a whole other animal.
Okay.
So if you have your homeowner's policy and you have your auto policy and your boat policy, you need to have a flood policy. And people say, well, I'm not in a flood zone. Everyone's in a flood zone. You're either in a good flood zone or a bad flood zone. And so flood has a 30-day wait the majority of the time.
What do you mean?
So if you see a hurricane coming, you're like, hey, I'm going to call and get flood insurance. Most of the time there's a 30-day wait.
Gotcha.
It's changing. There's some companies that have a shorter wait.
Right.
As more and more people are doing it. But so it's better to take time, not during season.
Right.
But yes, I mean, anything can flood.
What about renters?
Perfect question.
I mean, should renters get insurance, or does the homeowners coverage cover the renters?
Great question. Absolutely, they should buy it. Renter's coverage is one of the least expensive types of insurance out there. I mean, we're talking $200, maybe $300 for the year, not a payment, the whole year. And the home, if you rent an apartment or you live in a home or a dwelling, whichever, know the homeowners or whoever owns that property does not cover you. They don't cover your stuff. They don't have a vested interest in your things. But the scariest thing is, I mean, we know what it costs to put a house back. We know what it costs to fix a car.
Right.
But we don't know what it's going to cost when someone comes and trips at your house. So the liability is the key. So we, at our company, say, hey, yes, you have $25,000 that you need to cover for renters or $50,000 for renters, but the liability is the unknown. That's the part where someone can get hurt or something can happen, or you could say something wrong about someone, which we've seen locally before, and there's some slander coverage in some of the policies. I mean, it's such a broad policy.
Right.
Yes. So if you live in
Slander.
a house, I mean, if you live in a house, you should, the homeowner should have the house insured, and they should require you to have coverage because that helps them also. So I know a lot of people listening have rental homes that they rent to other people.
Sure.
It should be a requirement that they have renter's coverage. And it's very inexpensive. It's not going to break the bank for them.
No, $300, and for no other reason, just that little peace of mind.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes it's $99. I mean, it's minimal.
Right. I guess it would depend on what you have covered.
Correct,
or what you're wanting covered. So if someone wanted to get information, where can they get information about Merrill Insurance?
Yes, yeah.
You'll answer any questions, right?
Yes, yeah. I mean, our staff we have some of the best people out there. I mean, really, we do. Our tenure is incredible. I mean, we probably have 10, 15 people who've been with us 10 years plus. We have people who have been with us 30 years, 20 years. So
Wow.
we hire good people and we keep good people. So yes, you can Google us, Merrill Insurance. You can go to our website, merrillinsurance.com. There's some more information about us, how to contact us. You can go on our website, put in the information. We're not going to, throw you into a thing and hassle you. When you call our agency, you get a person.
Which is what a lot of people are afraid of.
Yeah, no, I get
it's
it.
like walking onto a car lot.
Yeah, I mean, you get a real person when you call us. You're transferred to a real person. So we're in growth mode, right? So we want to grow because the more we grow, the more people we can take care of. And my family is very big on that. We feel like the Lord has blessed us to steward this business, and that's how we want to run it. That's how we want to operate.
So we're approaching the end of the show. Do you have any last minute recommendations you'd like our viewers to be aware of, or what they should do?
Yeah, I feel like you should have someone that is your go-to person for insurance. So if it's us or if it's someone else, that's up to you. But someone that you need to talk to throughout the year. Hey, I built a pool. You wouldn't believe how many people build a pool, which are expensive, and they never add it. And then they have a hurricane claim, and they're like, "Oh, you have a pool and a $40,000 screen enclosure." So
again, review
just
policy.
Have a conversation.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, Blake, thank you so much. There's so much more information I'd like to cover today.
Yes, yeah.
We'll have to get you back on the show and
Perfect.
start really getting into the weeds, maybe on specific policies in the future. Okay. And real quick, where can people get information about Merrill Insurance again?
Our website is merrillinsurance.com, MERRILL. Insurance is spelled out.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. That's it for our show today. This has been Radio Waves, and we'll see you next time.